Hello everyone, welcome back to the ReQuest. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me today is my son, Jayson. Austin is not here with us this time, and this is why we're doing it in the afternoon on a Thursday instead of Wednesday evening, because Austin was not able to get his hands on today's ReQuest, and he tried really hard. He looked everywhere. We kind of felt bad about not being able to include him, but on the other hand, I'm also glad that, I'm conflicted, because I'm also glad that you're able to be here, Jayson, because you watched this show with me, and I know you have quite a bit to say about it, and Jayson has also been kind of immersing himself a little bit in some Dragon Ball stuff after looking at this with me. He's been looking at the manga also. And so he'll have some things to bring to the table with that. And you wouldn't have been able to join us last night.
Yeah.
It would have been just Austin and I. So I wish Austin was here, but I'm also glad that you get to be here.
Yeah.
So Dragon Ball Z is a thing that this is kind of a real monumentous occasion for Geekvolution, especially for folks that have been with us for a real long time, because people have asked me to review Dragon Ball Z going all the way back.
Really?
Yeah. Dragon Ball Z is one of the big reasons that I had to nix Japanese superhero content from Superhero Rewind, because there's just too much of it, and people were constantly, I don't want to say harassing me, there was maybe a little bit of that, but people were constantly begging me to talk about Dragon Ball Z, and I have to confess, as a lot of you guys know, I'm not a big anime guy. I've warmed up more to it over the years, and I've been looking at more of it, especially in the last year or two. We've done some anime content here and there. I watched all of Death Note, which I absolutely adore, at least conceptually and totally, and the first half of. It falls off the rails after that, but it was still fun. It was still fun to watch, and Jayson's been watching a little bit of that with me also. Anyway, I don't mean to turn every anime discussion into a Death Note discussion, but it's the only one that I've watched all of, and it's the anime that I really, really like. And then I did I did a blind commentary stream on a few anime pilots recently. But I will confess, Dragon Ball Z has never been a thing that visually looked like it would appeal to me, and I've always avoided it because it just didn't look like my thing. It didn't look like something I would want to watch. And I think a lot of it just had to do with the art style.
Yeah.
And I saw it. I remember a few years ago, I was at a video and like a video game and movie store, like kind of like a vintage stock. And it was this huge store, and in the back they had a big screen with projector, and they were showing some Dragon Ball Z movie, and I was blown away by the animation and the sound and the score. It was this real kind of high octane rock soundtrack, and I don't know what that movie is. Somebody would have to tell me. It was animated. It wasn't Evolution or whatever. But I looked at that and I went, well, I don't know. Like, maybe there's something here for me, but it wasn't the cartoon show, and so anyway, I've always kind of dismissed that. I just couldn't get excited about it, and this is what it took to finally get me to watch any of this material, as somebody had to request it on Patreon, and I'll use that as a real quick segue to say if there's something that you would like to see requested for the ReQuest, and we'll do darn near anything. Darn near. I have vetoed a thing here and there, but for the most part, we'll do anything. Patreon.com/Geekvolution. The $15 tier gives you access to that, makes it possible for you to request something. You only have to be subscribed for 1 month for your request to be on the list, and there's a 4 to 5 month wait. We've got, I think, 14 requesters right now, so quite a few, and but you can do a one-time request, or you can stay on the list and keep in the rotation. A lot of people do that. We really appreciate all the support. Anyway, that's how the request works. So we are talking about Dragon Ball Z Kai. We watched the first 4 episodes, and that was requested by SS Jerry on Patreon. So all of you guys that forever have been wanting me to say anything about this series, you have SS Jerry to thank for the fact that that is finally happening. And you've never seen anything Dragon Ball Z, right?
Mm-mm.
Even though you've been getting more into manga and in anime.
Yeah.
you've watched some anime stuff on Crunchyroll, and
Yeah.
and you read mangas on, what is that?
On Shonen Jump.
Shonen Jump, yeah.
Viz Media. But yeah, I've gotten a lot more into manga, and I like to watch, like the anime that the manga that I like the manga that is that is based on.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But I haven't actually seen that much.
Are you
anime.
saying you like to read a manga and then look at the anime? Is that
Yeah.
what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
So you had no exposure to this?
No.
Did you know anything about the series?
Not really.
So this comes out in 2009 in Japan. We get it in 2010. And I was kind of perplexed initially as to why SS Jerry asked me to talk about this kind of like revamp version instead of the original.
Yeah.
And I don't have the original to compare it to, but looking at just what we saw today, I didn't find myself really lost. I didn't think it was difficult to jump in and understand what I was looking at.
Yeah.
And if it's more polished, I can totally see if that's the reason he thought that this would be the thing that could get me into the series. And also, I imagine some of it might have had to do with Saiyan mythology and all of that, because there are so many comparisons to make with American superhero stuff, particularly Superman, of course. Mm-hmm. And I mean, what you're looking at here basically is the plot of Man of Steel if Superman loses.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is. Except instead of terraforming the bad guy alien who is related to our protagonist, brother instead of, I say related. I mean, Zod isn't related to Superman, but he is in the sense that there aren't very many Kryptonians. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you do have the relative thing like you do with Invincible. That was the other thing that I couldn't stop thinking about watching this. And of course, you don't know anything about Invincible because that comic and show is far too violent to let you look at yet. But eventually, I'm sure when you're older, when you're an adult, you'll probably enjoy that. But that is really, really dark adult subject matter, and like I said, super bloody. But it has a really similar thing in that, and spoilers for that, but minor spoilers anyway. But it has a hero who doesn't realize that he's an alien. Who doesn't know his origins, but has superpowers, and who has a father who it's revealed comes from an alien race that is dominating planets, and that his fate, his destiny is allegedly anyway supposed to be to take over the planet. Yeah. And this is a very similar sort of situation. And then you even kind of get that a little bit with Until It's Abandoned with Clark Kent in Smallville. Rule them with strength, my son.
Yeah.
That whole thing. So I was kind of at home here with a lot of that stuff, and I think some people, because there was a lot of speculation in the community post that I put out yesterday about whether or not I would enjoy the show at all. Yeah. And somebody is ringing our doorbell.
Uh-oh.
Okay, well, I guess I have to go deal with that.
Yeah, I'll talk about things, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
I'll just break down plot, I guess.
Yeah, feel free to do that. I'll be right back.
Yep.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So, yeah, basically, he comes from a different planet. He thinks he's actually from Earth, but, his father finds him much like, or what he thinks is his father finds him and adopts him, much like Superman in that sense. And then we find out that he's actually from a different planet because his brother comes and tells him, okay, you need to, you need to take over this planet so that you can, because he says that there are only 4 people left on the planet, and apparently, I can't remember. He bonked his head at some point and forgot that he was a Saiyan, and so he became, a nicer person because he was more like, more of a barbarian as a kid, and then he becomes nicer because he forgets that he's an alien, and he just thinks he's been a human this whole time. And then he finds out he's actually an alien, but he's still not sure about it.
It's gotta be weird when you hit your head and you get amnesia, and then you're like, hey, I have this tail. Why do I have that? That's pretty weird. Okay, so apologies, folks. Some salesman was ringing the doorbell, and I am here alone with the kids, as I always am during the day. I don't think that's ever happened to us during a live show during the day.
Really?
Yeah, anyway, that was wonderfully unprofessional, but thanks for bearing with us, everybody. And so, how far into plot synopsis did you get?
I broke down basically the first episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we'll spoil everything, of course. First 4 episodes get a lot done.
Yeah.
I think. The show really doesn't waste any time. And that's why I kind of liked coming into it with... Even though it feels like you're watching a sequel to something, I kind of liked coming to it with a lot of the background already being, in the past and dealt with. And it kind of feels like this is where the really interesting, fun stuff happens.
Yeah.
Now, it might be that there's all kinds of cool stuff before that in the original version. Now, somebody in the comments will have to explain this to me, because I am a little bit confused as to... what the original show is versus this, because I know that there's a bunch of material that show. It sounds like kind of filler to be a kid's show. I don't know, because Dragon Ball Z has that reputation for it taking like 6 episodes to get through a fight.
Yeah.
Right? And for the whole thing to just be, I mean, there's mythology and stuff, but to mostly just be kind of turn-based fighting is kind of the reputation that I've heard with that show.
Yeah, I think the whole point is it just cuts as much filler as it can, and just kind of, gets the point, and also matches the manga better.
Well, that's my question, does the manga start here?
Yeah.
Or is this way into the manga?
Well,
or is there a Dragon Ball Z Kai manga, and that's... I didn't think so, but okay. So this is actually where the manga starts?
Yeah, this is where Dragon Ball Z starts.
Okay.
So I think Dragon Ball...
So let me get this straight. Can I ask you this real quick? So what you're saying is the Dragon Ball Z manga kills its protagonist 12 chapters in.
Yes. 10 chapters in. Yeah.
That was my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Is that I'm watching the show, I'm strapping in, I'm figuring out who Goku is.
Yep.
Who I've, he's like this really iconic character who I know what he looks like, but I don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more clueless than I was expecting.
Yeah, but that's kind of anime characters.
Yeah, because he has that Ash thing where he's, not super competent.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference is, and I like how self-aware the show is about this, because the difference is, Ash, I don't know a lot of anime, and I don't know Pokemon super well, but I've seen a few episodes with you.
Yeah.
I don't know how to not compare it to that.
Right.
There is, and especially now that I've seen, sorry, I'm going to handle myself, especially now that I've seen an image of Frieza, because it looks to me like Mewtwo is just ripped off of Frieza. But anyway, he's got this big white tail that like rounds around him, and I'm like, oh, that's Mewtwo. So the where was I going? I don't know how to not compare it to Ash, because Pokemon kind of says, he's not very good at being a Pokemon master, but he's learning and he loses a lot of fights. This simultaneously shows its protagonist as not being especially great at anything, except he has his superpowers. Mm-hmm. But also talks about him like he's the greatest hero, the greatest warrior who ever lived.
Yeah.
And that seems entirely intentional and very tongue-in-cheek to me.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was funny. Friendly Yo-Yo says it's not even the first time he died.
Well, I think the whole plot...
That would explain why that seems so routine.
Yeah.
Because his friends are all sad for a second, and then they go, oh, I mean, we could just go find all the Dragon Balls and bring him back to life.
I'm pretty sure there was... I don't know that well, but I'm pretty sure one of the big main plots in the original Dragon Ball was there was a story where all his friends died, and he's got to go find all the Dragon Balls
Okay.
to save them all.
Oh.
But
So this is like a regular motif.
yeah,
I think it's really funny that you have basically a genie lamp in the Dragon Balls.
Yeah.
That doesn't have the typical caveat of no bringing people back from the dead.
yeah, you just gotta find them all.
Remember the genie in Aladdin?
Yeah.
It's like, I can't bring people back from the dead, and I can't make people fall in love with each other. Apparently, the Dragon Balls are the Infinity Gauntlet.
Right.
And you could do anything with them.
And
How easy are they to find? Because his friends don't seem that worried about discovering the other 6, and they only have the 1 on a hat. Or do they have 3?
I'm pretty sure
Why am I remembering there being something about 3 Dragon Balls?
There's 2 Dragon Balls at his house, but
Okay.
but they'd never bring that up in the 4 episodes, so I think they might have just forgotten that.
No, it did, because how else would I know it? It had to have come up in an episode.
Right, it came up in an episode because he talked about it.
Okay, well, you just said it didn't come up.
Right.
What are you talking about?
But it doesn't come up again.
Oh, it doesn't
Once
again,
he dies, they don't talk about it. Like, they just say, oh, we got the 1 Dragon Ball, now we gotta find the other 6. I'm like, well, you already got 2 at the house.
Yeah, and that's the other reason that I say Goku seems a little bit scatterbrained, if not incompetent.
Yeah.
Because the Dragon Balls are like the Infinity Gems.
Yeah.
Where they're super powerful, at least when you put them all together. I guess individually they don't do anything.
Right.
But he lets his kid just run around with it on his hat. He could easily lose that hat,
Right.
and he's just playing by a waterfall.
Yeah.
And he almost dies at a waterfall. You know, like the kid hanging onto the railing in Superman 2? And I'm like, is this show about bad parenting? Because this guy's a horrible father.
Yeah. Well,
But I don't think he's supposed to be a horrible father. And again, I think it's tongue-in-cheek. I don't think you're supposed to think about it too much. I don't think it's taking itself too seriously. But it's also a show that has a surprising... This is maybe just Japanese kids' entertainment.
Yeah.
But this is a show that has a surprising amount of edge and grit to it for being a thing that I don't feel like I'm supposed to remotely take seriously.
Yeah. And I don't think they actually bring this up in the show, but in the manga, they say that you can't wish the same thing twice.
Oh,
Which
interesting.
is a neat rule, but they don't say anything about it in the...
Well, I guess we just have to assume
anime.
that they haven't brought anybody back from the dead with this. Or maybe
Yeah.
you can bring different people back from the
Right,
dead.
you just can't bring...
The same person.
Yeah.
So Goku only has 1 life in this video game?
Yeah.
In a thing that very much feels like a video game?
Yeah.
I mean, it's deeper than like a side-scrolling or fighting game video game plot.
Yeah.
But it really does have that, at least like RPG level,
Yeah.
with all of the talk about power levels and my eyes started glossing over with that. Like Raditz would just not stop talking about people's power levels, and then one thing I found really amusing. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. There's a lot in these 4 episodes.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to organize my thoughts. He shows up and he's, again, mythology I know nothing about, right? Raditz shows up and he goes, you know what I'm going to say, right?
Yeah.
He goes, this guy has a power level of 5. He's got like, who is he talking about?
He's talking about the farmer guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the farmer guy. When it becomes the pilot of Enterprise?
Yeah.
With the Klingon versus the farmer? And he goes, he's got a power level of 5. He's nothing. And I'm like,
Well, what's your power level?
I don't know what the scale is.
Yeah, but
And
then...
then later on when he's like, my power level is like 350, I'm like, oh! That guy did have no power. And then the kid, before he gets, what, Gohan?
Yeah.
Goku's child?
Yeah.
Again, it's weird watching a show where it feels like a whole generation has happened, and our protagonist already has a kid, before he even knows he's from another planet.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if Clark Kent had John Kent before he even knew he was Kryptonian.
Yeah. Well, and...
It's crazy. Although I realize he used to have his memories.
Yeah.
You know, at least when he was a kid. But this happened when he was a kid, right?
Yeah.
So he loses memories at like what? 7 or 8 years old?
Yeah.
But his kid, like before he has his like emotional outbursts that give him all of his power. The guy's like he's got a power level of 1.
Yeah. Something from our conversation from earlier.
Yeah.
So I don't think. So I think, originally there was just one manga that was Dragon Ball, but once they switched anime shows and they went from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z, they made the last 300 and something episodes or chapters of the Dragon Ball manga called Dragon Ball Z.
So Dragon Ball Z is still a sequel to something. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's still part of the Dragon Ball manga, but they took.
What I'm trying to
half of
figure
it.
out is, were there adventures to read prior to Goku having a kid named Gohan?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Or if this is legitimately the starting place.
No.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But I was kind of confused about it because I knew there was a difference between Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, but I never really understood that either.
Yeah. Dragon Ball was like the stuff from like 5 years earlier.
Okay.
Up to like the big fight between him and Piccolo.
Because somebody left a comment in my community post yesterday and was like, "Oh, this sucks. Cap really should be starting at the beginning." And having watched this, there is no part of me that wants to go backwards.
Yeah.
Like, if I was going to continue with this, I just want to go forward.
Yeah, I think.
I've like no interest in looking at anything before this. Maybe I will after we, meet new characters and stuff. Like, if a lot of history starts encroaching on this where I feel lost, then maybe I'll want to go back. But so far, like, I understand what's happening.
And I feel like at least
I get how the mythology works.
Yeah, I feel like at least manga-wise, I would just finish the book and then go backwards if I just want to read more.
Yeah.
Like,
SS Jerry, who requested this, is in the comments right now, and he put in a $2 super chat and says, Kai is more manga accurate and way better paced. I assume so, based on, like I said, the reputation that Dragon Ball Z has. When I was a kid, I heard a light bulb joke about Dragon Ball Z. Have I ever told you that? How many Dragon Ball Z characters does it take to change the light bulb? Just one, but it'll take 6 episodes.
That's funny.
So this must be more well paced because, like I said, it doesn't really waste any time.
Yeah.
It gets a ton done. We have killed our protagonist, and then like Piccolo has lost and regrown an arm.
Yep.
And we've introduced a pretty good number of characters, but it's not overwhelming. It's not difficult to keep up with anybody.
And in the manga, he is like so much more shocked that his arm has fallen off. He's just like, ah!
Oh, I
can regrow this.
I loved how that was handled in the show.
In the show, he's like, I'm fine with just one arm.
He's so badass. It wasn't any problem. He goes, yeah, I can fight with one arm.
Yeah.
And it seemed even more tough guy-esque before I realized he could regrow it, because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I was like, you just lost your arm and you don't care.
Yeah.
And I loved that the show gave you no information about that until it was relevant. Like, it's really not holding your hand.
We're like, what is going on when he says like, ah!
Yeah.
I mean, like 3 seconds in, I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna regrow the arm.
Yeah, no, I got it as soon as he started straining, but I was like, oh, this is funny.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of like that I didn't know he could regrow his arm, because that was kind of a fun surprise. And I don't mean to say that it's not explicit enough about the things it needs to be explicit about. Like, again, I'm following it fine.
Yeah.
I think there was another super chat, so let me read that real quick. SS Jerry put in another super chat. Thanks, man. $5. The first episode you saw is chapter 195 of the entire Dragon Ball manga. The gang has a dragon radar, which pinpoints the location of the Dragon Ball.
Which is not in the anime. It's
not.
In the manga.
It's not mentioned in the anime. Maybe it comes up finally, like later when they start going to get them. But that explains why they're not worried about not being able to find them, because that seemed like a pipe dream to me, where they're like, his friends. I don't remember some of these characters' names, but you've got Bulma, who's the girl, and Krillin, who's the bald guy, and Roshi, who's the dirty old man who looks like Shun from Virtua Fighter.
Yeah.
And apparently he's even worse in the show than he is in the comics.
Because in the
About
comics
that,
he
he's
just wants...
he's such a womanizer.
Yeah, in the comics he just wants a kiss.
Yeah, he wants a lot more than that when you first meet him, and immediately I don't like this guy.
Right.
And
no, he's actually a lot more likable in the manga.
It kind of feels like I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
But then, or yeah, at first, and then they keep playing him as kind of a comic relief character, and I'm like, this is where there's some kind of a cultural disconnect, I think, because I know the animes go to that place a lot with stuff, but it also feels like it's supposed to kind of be a kid's show, so that feels really icky to me that that's in a kid's show.
Man,
and it's all what?
There's an Android saga. That's weird.
Well, don't read ahead.
Well,
as always, I try to have historical perspective as well as cultural perspective. But you know, you have the reactions you have to things, and I was like, that is that guy's messed up. Okay, quit reading here. We're trying to we're trying to have a conversation. We're trying to have this review. I have a wiki open for information, and Jason's just reading now. Anyway, so yeah, I know that Kai drops like the episode count almost in half.
Really?
Yeah, it's like 160 something, and the original is like 260 or 290 something. It's a lot.
Wow. Yeah, that's... Yeah, I would like to see, like, how crazy, like, how long that actually is. Like, how long it actually takes to get there in the original.
See, I really appreciate that Sacheri gave me this to watch, because again, full disclosure, I was not looking forward to doing this. This always just seemed like a thing I would not probably like, and I thought I was going to be bored to tears. And I was shocked after 2 episodes that I was kind of engaged with it.
Yeah.
And I was not bored to tears.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm like over the moon about it, and I just can't wait to sit down and watch more, but I probably will actually watch more of this, which is not a thing I thought I would say.
Yeah.
I will back off a second and say I certainly would flip my sign green on this. Like, I enjoyed it, and I found it very watchable.
Yeah. I thought the first couple... I guess just, like, the first episode is a little slow going at first. Just because it has, like, a whole 10-minute thing telling you what, like a little recap. But... Because I wasn't actually sure what was going on at first. If that was a recap, or if that was just...
Well, the recap was clear, because it was a voiceover that's like, they went on all these adventures.
Right.
And they got married and had a kid.
Yeah.
Like...
But
what part of that
I don't know if that was
not clearly a recap?
I don't know if that actually was a recap, or if it's just like what happened in between the two. I'm not sure.
In between the two what?
In between the 2 shows. Like in between the 5 years.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, regardless of whether it was stuff that was actually shown in the show, I get what you're saying, but I mean, effectively for the sake of the narrative, it is a recap. Like it's giving you information you didn't have. But you're right. Is it recap or is it background?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just didn't find myself caring. I don't want to go back after I watched this.
Right.
So you killed off your protagonist in 3 episodes, and then I get to watch him walk along a snake road that looks like the Great Wall of China in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Why would you want to go back from that?
Yeah.
Like, that's really fun. And then the only thing I know about things coming up, because I just accidentally glanced at something while I was doing research, is that Frieza comes back very early. And Frieza is the character that destroys the vegetable planet. Mm-hmm. Vegeta? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm curious to see what that's like, although our main character won't face off with him right away unless he gets brought back very quickly. The big question I have is, so we have this kind of ticking time bomb, but it's a slow burn one, right? So the other Saiyans are coming. We have a very much like almost Last Son of Krypton thing going on.
Yeah.
Where you have your heroic character who there's kind of a nature nurture question where like he's destined to kill all the life on the planet. I don't know how much you talked about this when you were doing recap when I was upstairs.
Not much of that part of it.
But he okay. So his role, his supposed destiny, and like it's talked about like before he gets injured, before he gets a head injury, he's like naturally destructive.
Yeah.
And I found that unreliable. I kind of wondered about that.
Yeah.
Like how much of it is natural, kind of programming, and how much of it is cultural programming.
Yeah.
Was kind of a question I had. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I just kind of wondered about that. Like,
yeah.
what was he like as a child? Is it indoctrination, or is it, in your DNA? But then if it's in your DNA, it wouldn't matter if you had a head injury. So it seems like nature. It seems like nurture is winning out on this, of course, right? Yeah. So he's supposed to take out everybody on the planet so that the Saiyans can sell it. Mm. It's like they're in the business of planet selling.
Yeah.
So they're like genocidal capitalists.
Yeah.
I guess is what's happening.
Yeah.
So it's like if General Zod had his 2 minions, right?
Right.
You've got 3 Saiyans, you had 3 evil Kryptonians and Superman, and that's in some versions that's all you have, or that's all you think you have, until you have like Supergirl or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's like if General Zod, instead of wanting to just rule the planet or bring back Kryptonians on Earth and take it over to be New Krypton, it'd be like if he just had a business selling planets.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I find that very amusing. So,
yeah, I think that's fun, and
it's a cool idea.
And I feel like I want that show where it's just the Saiyans just going around destroying, like way back when.
Yeah.
Like,
because it's like if Galactus was a capitalist.
Yeah.
It's like if he's not just eating planets for sustenance. He's killing everything on the planet so that he can then turn it over for a profit. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some sort of social commentary there.
I feel like that's what like Ferengi Klingons would be.
That's hilarious. So you have so apparently the Saiyans are on their way. There's only 2 left.
Yep.
One of my favorite exchanges in the show, by the way, in the episodes we watched, was when Radigan goes, "You give all Saiyans a bad name." And I was like, all 4 of you? There's 4 of you.
Yeah. He gives himself a bad name.
So they've got a year for the Saiyans to get there, and then Piccolo has to train Goku's son, Gohan. Yeah. And we're also told that it will take Goku in the afterlife a year to traverse the Snake Road. And or no, he's not going to be on the road for that long. I guess he needs that long to also train.
Yeah,
he's got to get to the end of the road so that he can find some mentor man in the afterlife who will train him to be able to take care of the Saiyans when he's alive again?
Yeah.
I think is what's happening.
I think that's what's... I kind of forgot what happened there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just read it as well. But they're not super clear on what they need to do.
So that's why my big question there is this going to be a slow burn thing where Goku is dead for a year?
Yeah.
And how many episodes will the year take? Like, is this a whole season?
Right. Or do they do a time jump?
Right.
That's a good question.
Yeah. And nobody tell me, because I don't want to know yet. Because I will probably actually watch this.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'm shocked I'm saying, but it was entertaining. And let me also say, there's some really pretty animation in this show.
Yeah. It looks really good.
I'm having that thing, and I'm not saying that the show itself is super sketchy, but I'm having the thing that I have with some super stylized or sketchy comics, where at first glance I go, oh, this is not visually appealing to me.
Yeah.
And then I get into the flavor of the story, the context of what I'm reading, the kind of thing it is, and then I go, oh no, this is wholly appropriate for what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And so it should look like this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm having with this. Like, at first glance, I don't really care for the character models.
Yeah.
With the show, the designs. I have the kind of thing, and I know nobody else has this, but I have the sort of thing I do with Street Fighter, where I just feel like all the characters look really generic. And I can't get excited about it. Then I got into the show, and I'm like, I don't have that anymore. It no longer feels generic to me.
Yeah.
Which I would have if I played more Street Fighter, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Danaverse, the origin was more of a comedic adventure show given Toyama's background as a gag artist. Yeah, people are talking about how it starts as a gag show. It doesn't really start to become about getting stronger with Tao and King Piccolo. And then I feel like he trailed off there because that's not the end of a sentence, so I'm not sure what he's saying.
Yeah.
HB Haga, too much hair product cap. No, it isn't that. Because I'm used to that with animes.
Yeah.
And people have big crazy hair in anime. I really don't know how to describe what I find, or what I initially found off-putting about the designs.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. And I feel like it has something to do even with, like, coloring or something.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I really can't articulate that.
Yeah.
And I'm not lobbing that at it as a criticism either, because again, as I'm watching it, like, my mind has changed about that.
Yeah.
And like I said, some really fantastic action, and some really great landscape shots. Mm-hmm. This show loves, like, blue skies and clouds.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I've noticed that.
It really likes like majestic scenery.
Yeah, and I mean it looks good.
It looks great.
Yeah. Oh, you know, did you like the king guy? In the
afterlife? Oh, he's hilarious.
It's like, you know I can send you to hell.
That was my other favorite line. Yeah, you probably shouldn't talk like that in front of someone who can send you to hell.
And that part I actually like better because in the manga he doesn't say yo.
Yeah.
Which is, like, more, like, in the manga, he's just like, hey. Like.
So you told me when you started reading the manga that the show was word for word. I guess it veers off.
It does veer off, and I feel like the manga is a lot more, like, I don't know really how to explain it, but the dialogue feels like it's more from, like, a book than the anime. Just feels like it's people talking. Like, there's a lot more extensive words and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, but it's just like a lot of, like, you know, things that you wouldn't really hear.
You just mean like more intelligent
saying.
vocabulary?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you think it's dumbed down a little bit for kids in the translation? Or do you think maybe even the Japanese is that way? I guess there's no way to know if you don't know Japanese, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, the way you described it to me was it's a little bit more formal.
Yeah.
And a little bit more archaic. Like... Yeah. You and I had a question at first as to, like, what time period this is set in, because it feels kind of feudal Japan, but then they're flying around in a hovercraft thing.
Yeah.
And then I did a little research, and it's supposed to be sort of like a counter Earth, like an alternate Earth. It's not a history that resembles or reflects ours in any way, which is cool. So it's very fantasy epic in that way, where it's called Earth, but it's not set in a particular time period.
Right.
And it's not just straight fantasy because it has a lot of science fiction elements.
Yeah, which I know you probably really like.
I much prefer a blend of fantasy and science fiction than straight fantasy. So again, I was more at home here. Like, I can appreciate magical artifacts a lot more. This is just a personal taste thing. Yeah. When there's also some technology involved.
Yeah.
So... like, I'd rather a Star Wars than a Lord of the Rings or something.
Right.
And this is more like that, but maybe even a little bit more grounded science fiction, because you have kind of a classic alien invasion sort of setup also. Yeah. One thing I'm curious about, though, is if there are modern cities in this world.
Yeah, that's the question I had too.
Because it looks like a real old-fashioned kind of village that they live in.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing a lot of technology, except they're, again, flying around in kind of a hovercraft.
And they've got a thingy that they've got a like detector for the Dragon Balls.
Daniver says the show also has dinosaurs. You should always lead with it has dinosaurs.
Right, which makes you probably want to keep watching it.
Well, especially if it happens early. That would have been the thing to pitch it to me. Yeah. Absolutely.
You gotta get some
Anthony Cabrera, 49 Super Chat. Cap, if you love Saiyan stuff, watch the prequel special, Bardock, the Father of Goku. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I am definitely having the same thing with this that I do with Superman and Power Rangers and a lot of properties, where I'm really interested in and engaged with the science fiction mythology and the background with the alien civilization and how all that works. Like, that's what I want to know about.
Yeah.
You know, I like Jor-El more than Superman. I like, typically. I mean, I love Superman, don't get me wrong. But, like, with Superman stuff, it's Jor-El that I latch onto. With Power Rangers, it's Zordon that I latch onto.
Yeah.
I'm having that with this show, except we don't have, like, that mentor guy.
Yeah. Kind of. I guess Piccolo is kind of
please don't spoil too much for me, guys, in the comments. Appreciate it, friendly yo-yo. He's like, he's calling people out. He's like, don't spoil everything. We're getting a lot of comments here, and we should roll back and read some of these here in a second. But what complaints do you have? Is there anything that you are finding off-putting or you think could be better handled with the show? You're obviously liking it well enough to read the manga, so...
Yeah, I'm not sure, actually. I think the characters could be... I think the side characters could get a little more screen time, and we could actually figure out, like, their what they like and stuff.
But we're interested in things, but we're early, and we just killed off our protagonist.
Right.
Well, we didn't kill him off. He's still around.
It's also the sequel to a show, which we might have already known some stuff about those characters. So that's why
But it's a show that watches like it's introducing them to us.
Right.
Where, like, it knows that there's an audience that is not familiar with those characters.
Yeah.
So you're right, it's trying to do both of those things.
Yeah. So, and they're also just all really annoying. Like...
Yeah, I don't like his wife.
His wife's probably the best of the side characters.
Oh, I don't agree with that. But we haven't really done much with the other three. Yeah. I mean, you got dirty old man guy who I'm curious to see if I can even be won over with him. Like, yeah, he's got funny sunglasses, you know.
he's better in the manga because he's like a little more serious, but.
Well, he's Master Roshi. It seems like he's supposed to be your, like, wide sage character,
right?
And he's not that at all.
And then you got bald guy, which we didn't do anything with. And
we
then
did nothing with.
Very annoying woman.
Yep.
I don't remember her name, but
very typically annoying anime woman.
Yeah.
And his wife is also like that.
Yeah.
And very women in these shows seem to always be super mood swingy.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys are too, but the women especially.
Right. I mean, you don't like Misty from Pokemon.
No.
Like, until like 20 or 30 episodes in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then she kind of.
I think you meant me personally. But... I was like, yeah, I'm with you.
Well, yeah, no,
I don't care.
She's annoying.
But you're right. I mean, hopefully some time will be spent in fleshing them out now that our hero is going down a purgatory road.
Yeah.
But then he's also going to have that subplot. And I'm sure we'll still spend a lot of time with Goku.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to think if there's really much else.
Well, I'll just say real quick that and again, some of this is personal taste, and I realize this is a kind of standard motif or element to these kinds of shows. So we're talking about different cultures again, but I am always put off by like super exaggerated responses to things for the sake of comedy.
Yeah.
Like I just don't find it funny, and I will never find it funny. But I've also become accustomed to it.
Yeah,
so it doesn't bother me anymore. I just put up with it.
I didn't even notice any of it, but I don't. There's probably some, but
Yeah.
I've just gotten so accustomed to it that because I don't really like it either. But
No, you did because you looked at me and laughed at it when what's his face I keep forgetting his name. Raditz. I want to say Radigan.
Oh, yeah, Raditz.
When Raditz shows up and everybody's like, he has a brother.
Okay, yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just takes me out every time. It also hurt my face. But anyway. Yeah, so I don't love that stuff.
It definitely did. Like, the first couple episodes, I was just like, okay, are we gonna get anywhere? Right. That was
And then we totally did.
And then we did.
But at least his having a brother, it's understandable why they're a little bit surprised by that.
Right.
I can't think of a good example, but there's one or two other places where they're freaking out about things that I don't understand why you would have any reaction whatsoever to.
Yeah.
That was really weird. There's also a place or two where I only noticed the one thing. Tell me if you saw anything else, where there is a little bit of an inconsistency in the way it's translated. Do you remember like the Radigan's special whatever gun?
Yeah.
Where he keeps calling it that, the special something something gun, but it has a Japanese name. So like the special gun is a translation of whatever that Japanese name is. Mm-hmm. But then toward the end, just before he gets killed, he calls it the Japanese word, and he's never referred to it that way before.
I'm pretty sure you're talking about Piccolo's blast, right?
Oh, maybe it is Piccolo.
Yeah, it's Piccolo's. It's
no,
Piccolo's
you're right.
Blast thingy.
Yeah,
that he does.
But that was weird. Where like all of a sudden he calls it by the Japanese name. Yeah, he's never said
it's
that.
It's like something super blast at first, and then he calls it, something that sounds more like it's from that show.
Yeah, and
because it sounds more like a Kamehameha or something.
Yeah, the Mechan Kasapo, the special beam cannon.
Yeah.
That's what it is, special beam cannon. Why don't you just call it by the cool Japanese name in the first place?
Right, but he says special beam cannon first.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't want a direct translation for that. Like, I can't say it, but it sounds cooler.
Yeah.
Mechan Kasapo?
Yeah.
Just say that. Because I realize that we're translating it for an English-speaking audience. Yeah. But then it just becomes alien terminology. Mm-hmm. And I want that for a rich mythology.
Yeah.
So, minor gripe, but I thought it was really weird that we weren't using that. And then we used it, and I was like, see, it sounds cool. Like keep doing that.
Yeah.
I found this show sometimes very predictable. And sometimes not remotely predictable. I could not have guessed that our main character was going to get killed and wind up in purgatory 3 episodes into the show. But when Raditz shows up and he goes, "There's someone with a power level that's off the charts," I went, "It's the kid." It's the kid, and then it's 2 episodes before the big reveal. Yeah. Where like, oh, it's Gohan that's got the big. It's like, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I knew that's what that was gonna be. It's the kid, because of course it is.
Right.
And I want to complain that the kid is obnoxious, and that's also very typical for a show like this. Now, to be fair, the 1996 show is early enough that, I mean, I'm sure in Japan a lot of these tropes are already, real baked in and in starting to be, kind of standard, kind of cliche.
Yeah.
But we're introduced to a lot of that stuff here in America through Dragon Ball Z. Like that's kind of the foundation for a lot of this. And what I thought my review was likely to be was I would develop a respect for this show, but I wouldn't really enjoy it as an entertainment.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't want to go back, because this I'm enjoying as an entertainment. And I'm worried that I won't have that with the original show. But like this and Pokemon and maybe a couple of other things right in the mid-90s are introducing, America to all of these, kind of standard cliches in Japanese kids entertainment in anime.
And I wonder how annoying the kid is in the original.
Probably still just as annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, that voice actress is doing a good job.
Yeah,
but it's annoying.
Yeah.
But I'm conflicted because I also appreciate the show for creating consequences for the kid being kind of spoiled rotten.
Yeah.
And talking about the fact that he is that he has not really been raised to deal with the kinds of difficulties that he's about to have to deal with.
Right.
And so, like, the show knows he's annoying.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be more okay with it if we see an honest-to-God character, like a real change.
But the thing is,
with that kid,
is that
it's a pretty clear coming of age thing that we're setting up.
Yeah.
With Piccolo training him, and the setup for all of that I didn't find irritating. I actually kind of liked how that was getting put together.
Yeah. But the thing is that Goku's fault or is that his mother's fault?
Well, I always blame the parents together,
Right.
So yeah, it's
right.
You blame the parents, but that's why. Again, the show is self-aware about how annoying the kid is.
Yep.
It's self-aware about how Goku is a little neglectful and is not the most competent parent or hero.
Yeah.
But I don't know how far to take that. I don't know if it's just a joke or if there's actually supposed to be any commentary about not. Could be this much more kind of layered thing going all the way back, where it's like I'm reading way too far into this now, and I don't have enough material yet to really read it.
Right.
But it could be bad parenting all the way back. Bad parenting in the sense of, Goku, before he lost his memories, is from a planet that wanted him to commit genocide.
Right.
And now he, a lobotomized blank slate, is raising a kid himself.
Yeah.
Clueless as to how the real world works. Or how the real, universe works, if you like.
Yeah.
So that's all potentially interesting.
Yeah.
SS Jerry, $5 super chat. Thanks, man. They all had a reaction because Piccolo was the villain from the arc prior. Okay. Him and his father. This Piccolo reincarnated from him, King Piccolo. Oh, of course he did. Okay. The way it watched to me, I didn't think that they... okay. I knew that they knew about Piccolo.
Yeah.
But what I was talking about was the reaction to the brother.
Well, right. And that you said you understood. But you said that there were some other reactions that you did not understand.
That wasn't one of them. I forget what it is,
Yeah.
but I sort of get that too.
Yeah.
The dynamic, by the way, we haven't talked about this, but the dynamic with Piccolo and Goku is really cool.
Yeah, it is.
I like the Amadeus res of it. I like being thrown in the middle of this action and somehow not being lost. It's like I understood that he had this background with Piccolo where they had they had a martial arts tournament, and Piccolo lost to Goku, and they hate each other over it. And Piccolo wants his revenge on him, and now they have like an uneasy alliance that they have to deal with. And that whole situation is a lot more fun to watch than what I imagine the martial arts tournament was.
Yeah.
Like I don't care to go back to that now.
Yeah.
I'm in what feels like the fun part. Now, ignorance is whatever. Hindsight is 20/20. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I might go back and that was not the correct phrase. I might go back and look at that show eventually, and then go, okay, I'm glad that I'm finally looking at this.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't care.
Right.
Anthony Cabrera, Cap Gohan is 5 years old. Yes, but that doesn't make him inherently not irritating.
Right, and that's the other thing that I don't really like.
You have to go out of your way to make 5-year-olds not obnoxious.
Right, but he acts like he's 2.
That's a young 5. And again, I blame the parents. Let's see what else people are saying. Tom Atkins, I love the arc Gohan goes through, even though some of my favorite moments are filler. Okay, good. So he is going to grow and mature, it sounds like. And it was pretty clear that was where it was going. Professor Zoom, they were surprised about Raditz because Goku's origin was a complete mystery in the original Dragon Ball. Yeah, I got that too. And that's clear from the show.
Yeah.
Oh, something else I was going to mention that's interesting is this is paced both inside episodes and also overall very much like a comic series.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, they are going very much in line with the manga.
Yeah.
But I mean all the way down to they're recapping stuff in case you didn't watch last episode inside the episode.
Yeah.
Just like the beginning of a lot of singular issue comics.
Yeah.
RJ Godzilla, the manga is by a Japanese guy raised in the 40s and 50s in Japan, and they write women to be screaming monsters because that's how 8 to 15-year-old boys see their Japanese moms, especially in the 80s. I appreciate that background. Dimwit Monkey Makin Sapo, I can't say it yet, apparently translates to demons penetrating killing light gun. Which reminds me, I love the names of episode titles in animes.
Yeah.
And this has some of the longest ones I've ever seen. Like, I could not help but go, oh yeah, thanks for these really nice condensed down episode titles. The enemy is Goku's brother, ? The secret of the mighty Saiyan warriors. And with the slashes, it feels like it should be like cartoon shows that are split in half, that have like 2 15-minute sections, but they're not.
But
so is it like, here's the A story, here's the subplot?
But they kind of are too, because like they don't have any breaks
Yeah.
in between. But they kind of do have separate plots. Like, the first episode has...
There's subplots, yeah.
Has the... No, that's not what I mean. Like, they have, like, in the middle...
Is there a clear break and I just didn't really notice it?
The first episode, it at the beginning, it says, like, prologue.
Yeah.
And then, like, Goku comes back or whatever. And it has the prologue, and then it has the actual story.
Well,
but I'm not sure.
That makes me ask this question, then. In America, we typically write cartoon shows, and unless we split them up into like 2 shorts.
Yeah.
But we typically write a 22-minute. I won't even say a cartoon. I'll say an animated series, right?
Yeah.
We typically write those in 3 acts, like a movie.
Yeah.
So like a Batman episode, a Batman animated series.
Yeah.
It's gonna be 3 acts.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah.
In live action, we do 5-act shows. I don't know if you know that, but it's for
really?
Commercial breaks. Yeah, broken up into 5 acts.
I actually did not know that.
It makes me wonder if in Japan, animes are broken into 2 acts.
Yeah.
Because Death Note also kind of does that.
Yeah, kind of does.
Because remember, you get in the middle of a Death Note episode, and it shows you like rules from the Death Note.
Yeah.
It's always broken up in half like that.
Right, and Pokemon does that too with the Who's That Pokemon stuff.
See?
Because in the middle it does the...
Maybe it's a 2-act structure.
Right.
Bright Burns, $5 super chat. Thanks. I've sent a few or more subscribers your way because I shared a couple of your videos with Organized Chaos live streams. That's where that came from. Thank you for letting me know that. Green Mile and It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, stuff that he requested. I had sorry, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but thank you for shedding a light on this, and thanks for sharing our stuff. Somebody came into a live show who I didn't recognize and had not watched us before. And said, you just earned yourself a subscriber. I saw your review of something, rather, it was probably Green Mile, on Organized Chaos. And I said, the heck is Organized Chaos? Who's broadcasting my stuff? So I appreciate that. Thanks, man. Tom Atkins, what do you think of the opening? From the few animes I've seen, pretty typical?
It's pretty typical, yeah.
Catchy theme song?
Yeah.
Dun 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 dun. I mean, pretty typical.
Yeah.
Really pretty animation like the rest of the show.
Yeah. I don't know why he's talking about Dragonzord, though.
You get to the end and it sounds like he's saying Dragonzord. Okay, we have talked about this for an hour. I will scroll up and see if there are other comments that we really need to respond to. And while I'm doing that, you think of anything else you wanted to bring up? Any other comparisons to the manga you wanted to make since you've been reading that? And what are you enjoying more?
I actually don't know. I mean, probably the manga, because it's just structured a little better.
Yeah.
If
really eye-popping.
Yeah.
What I saw just looking over your shoulder a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I really like what they're doing with lettering in that book.
Yeah. And that's what some mangas do, like, later, after, as well.
Anthony Cabrera says all that comes from the original dub, talking about the whole thing with the energy gun.
Oh.
With Piccolo's gun. Anthony Cabrera, all the side characters had their development before all this. Yeah, I mean, I expected that, but at this point, they all mostly get sidetracked or become less interesting. Well, that's a price I'm willing to pay to move forward and find out what happens on the Snake Road. Because I just want to keep watching where I'm at right now. Lewis Cox, the Dragon Ball universe is kind of science fiction / superhero fiction. Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting that there's so much here that actually appeals to me. Because like I said, I did not expect to care. And I thought it would just feel too derivative. For whatever reason, I'm not having that. And maybe it's just because I've seen so many like alternate Superman things that it's refreshing for this not to be a dark one.
Yeah.
And it's reversed, right? Where like he's dark in the first place, and then
okay.
And then he turns around. Anyway, I think we'll go ahead and call it a day here.
Yeah.
I know folks are gonna ask me to come back and talk about more of the show. I'm not gonna promise that. I like I said, I will probably watch some more, especially with Jayson, and maybe down the road. I don't know if we'll do any kind of an overview with the show. I've had a hard time making time for those.
Yeah.
Just to watch a whole season of something and really have it in your head.
Yeah.
But what we might do at some point is a mini marathon or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be cool.
Watch some of this on a stream.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to handle it. But we might do that at some point. So yeah, I don't know if I'm putting this in my Hall of Fame. I don't know if I'm going that far.
Yeah.
But it's close.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually did really enjoy it. I would have to see more of it before I could make that call.
Yeah.
And that's why the Hall of Fame is pretty much just movies on the ReQuest.
Professor Zoom, I'm reading Dragon Ball Z because that's what the show is based on.
Yeah, hopefully the manga you're reading doesn't get raunchy.
I mean, it's rated A, which is like the lowest rating a manga could possibly have.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Wait, it's supposed to be like E for everyone?
It's like the G.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I've never actually read an A-rated manga before.
Next week, Austin will be back, and he and I are going to review the first volume of Immortal Hulk, which is another thing that people have been begging me to do for quite a while now. Not as long as Dragon Ball, because it's only a couple of years old. But people say it's like a new seminal Hulk run and is brilliant, and I get requests for it all the time. So we are finally going to tackle that and look forward to it.
Yes.
In the meantime, I will be back tonight for the Captain Logan show. We're going to talk about some weirdness that's been happening lately, or something that was discovered allegedly with Rotten Tomatoes, and we're going to talk about Rotten Tomatoes' influence on the film industry. And we'll take questions for a couple hours like we always do. And then after dark for patrons, if you want to hang out with us late and listen to Brandon and Austin and I and interact with us talking about stuff we don't usually talk about on the channel, you can do that at patreon.com/geekvolution. $2 tier, get you access to that. And then tomorrow night, starting at 10 o'clock, all the way into Saturday evening, the next 24-hour stream for Counting Crypto Freaks, The Revenge. It's season 4, which is not my favorite season, but it'll be interesting to see what that's like trying to watch all together. Anyway, thanks a lot for being here, folks, and we will see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan.
And I was Jayson.
Bye, everybody.